General Pam Bondi's announcement today isn't the first and likely will not be the last legal challenge brought by the administration over what it claims is Maine's violation of Title IX. The feud between President Trump and Governor Janet Mills began back in February when the two publicly clashed at the White House over transgender athletes. Since then, the Department of Education has tried to pull the entirety of Maine's federal K-12 funding. The Department of Agriculture tried pausing some money for the state's child nutrition program. The U.S. Justice Department has cut Maine corrections grants. And according to Bondi, the DOJ is considering retroactively pulling all funding that Maine has received in the past, unless the state falls in line. Joining us now, the Attorney General of the state of Maine, Aaron Frey. Thank you for being here. What is your response to AG Pam Bondi?
Well, good afternoon. The response is the same as it was back in February when the governor answered the question from the president, which is Maine is going to follow the law. We're going to follow Title IX as it's written and as it's already been interpreted, at least in some way, by courts. We're also going to follow Maine law, which is consistent with Title IX in terms of the protections that it provides for all of our citizens, women and trans women. So my response to AG Bondi is we told you we'd end up seeing you in court, and we look forward to talking about how the law does indeed protect all citizens, including trans student athletes.
Well, talk to me about the tension between what the administration is claiming and what Maine has in its state constitution.
So there really is not a difference in terms of what federal law and state law protects. The Title IX, on the basis of sex, the protection that it provides, that has been interpreted by lower courts to protect the participation of trans students in women's sports. It also, when it comes to Maine law, it's not our Constitution, but it's in the Maine Human Rights Act, that provides explicit protection against discrimination of transgender individuals, those with a certain sexual identity. And so both Maine law and Title IX are on all fours with protecting the same thing, which is that if you have a student who is identifying as a trans student, they will be able to participate in sports. They will not be excluded on the basis of their gender.
Do you have any numbers as to how many people are actually being affected by this right now in the state of Maine? The administration talks about it as if it's just happening everywhere and, in every classroom and every sports team. Do you know how many transgender girls are playing on sports teams right now?
There's been a lot of effort to drill down into that, and at this point, we're only able to identify two students in Maine that the administration appears to be concerned about in generating all of this energy on this one issue. And by the way, the complaint that the DOJ filed doesn't seem to suggest any more than that, really. So it's a small number. And trans student athletes have been participating in sports for years and years and years here in Maine. And it seems to be quite interesting that the administration can't actually point to the kind of harms that they are suggesting trans student participation leads to in sports.
Do you know how old these girls are, roughly?
They're teenagers. I don't have their exact ages. And frankly, understanding that there's a conversation to be having here about the appropriateness of this, that's all well and good. Keeping students out of it, not posting their pictures on Facebook to make some political score, not, bringing out students to draw attention to them and what they're going through. This is an adult level conversation. It's appropriate to have. The law makes it clear as to how actors like myself are going to respond, and that is to follow the law and not act inconsistent with it. So their ages, I think, are just in the teens, in the mid-teens.
What would it mean to lose the funding that the administration is trying to withhold from the state?
Well, first, the impact, because they're not targeting these cuts, right? As you had indicated at the top of this interview, there are a number of different cuts that may not be related to the program at issue that they're making. So when the USDA sought to strip funding away from food for children, that meant that there were children that were not going to be fed anymore and vulnerable adults then we're not going to be fed anymore. So the money that may come out of Maine, it could have a very significant impact, not just on trans students, but on Republicans, Democrats, Independents, those who are older, those who are younger. And by the way, the other problem with these cuts is that they are ignoring the law. The president, just like myself, just like Maine, just like the rest of the United States, we are bound to follow the Constitution. We are bound to follow the laws. We believe Title IX and Maine law require us to act in a certain way. We're doing that, and we think that what the president is suggesting we should be doing is inconsistent with what the law requires.
And as you said, you will see them in court. Maine Attorney General Aaron Frey, thank you very much for joining us.